three pieces of software that are going to affect your X52 in DCS. First one is in your control panel. Come over here in your search bar, type Joy. You have set up US game controllers, and there's going to be a line item for your X52. Go into properties, and here is all the buttons that your joystick and thrust control have. Main use of this screen is if you think something is not working, like your pinky button, you come over here, you press it, and it's going to light up. Obviously, all the axes, you can see if the axis is working or not. Dead zones, what you're going to see is this jitter. The X, Y, and Z axis, that's not a big deal, because the only thing it means is that you set the dead zone, and that's going to effectively eliminate the jitter from being considered, because when you are going in and out, you know, that's a dynamic thing. However, if you assign, for example, your zoom to your slider, this jitter, which is sometimes shows and sometimes doesn't. Yeah, there you go. There was a little bit of jitter over here. Yeah, there you go. This is going to translate into a flicker on the screen because the zoom is like changing by this tiny amount. If you really want to use the slider for zoom or the rotation buttons for something else that is an axis, the way you get rid of the jitter is to install a fourth piece of software, which it allows you to put some scripting. I forgot what that's called. Free Joy, I forgot what it's called, but you know, that additional piece of software will intercept this signals and smooth them out. You just Google it, you'll see somebody wrote a script that does that for you. I don't use the slider or the X and Y rotation buttons, so I didn't bother. And then the LEDs is just, you configure this however it is that you want in terms of colors and intensity. And the MDF, the important thing here is that if you want to use your button 31, which is your clutch, as a shift key, you have to come here and disable the clutch mode. Why that is, I don't know. I don't care. That's the way it has to be for it to work as a shift key. And that's what that screen is good for. Now, the other piece of software is by Logitech, is type X52 in your search bar, and this is going to show up. You open it up, and it is a little bit quirky, and we'll kind of go over it. First thing is, when you come here, go to programming, as I just did, go to views, and make sure you're not seeing 6 of these columns. Sometimes the software decides that you're going to use the pinky switch for something or something, whatever, and it's going to create an additional mode column for when the pinky switch is depressed, and then DCS is not going to be able to see it, the pinky switch, in which case you have to come here and delete these extra columns. Now, otherwise, for me, the only thing I had to do were the X and Y axes were inverted in relation to how I wanted. So I came here and set them up. And as I told you, I'm not using the rotary or the slides. If you were using the rotary or the slides, for example, for, let's say you want to do bands with. And bands is when you get the range of the rotary switch or the slide, and you assign an action to each different section in the range, right? So you would come over here and you would say bands, and you come over here and you say, okay, I want this to work as a camera pan up. So that's Shift 8. And you click here and name if you want it. I don't want to name it. Go away. I don't know how to make it go away. Just go to a different place. And that's how they would work. And if you're doing that, chances are you want to change this band. So over here, it has divided in equal sections, the thirds. So the way you change these bands or create additional bands, you come here and say Edit Bands. And you pay attention to your mouse. and you scroll to roughly where the divider line is, and you wait for it to turn from this thing with a bar in the middle to this thing without a bar in the middle, and then you can drag it. And then, for example, this, if I want to create 5 bands, I don't know, put it here. I guess 5 bands would be 20%, right? And in order to create another one, when the cursor is like this, there's this bar in the middle, I click it, and it creates another one, and you can do whatever it is that you want. I don't use this because, you know, what you're doing is you're saying when the control is in this position, I'm going to send this keystroke to the software. That works until you forget the control in that position, or you bump it by mistake, and then it continues to send that keystroke to the software repeatedly, and then the software is not going to be able to keep up. That's going to buffer up. You're not going to know what's happening because you didn't do it intentionally, you did it by accident, and all those keys are going to be queued up, and it's going to be you know, until you figure out what's going on, it's too late and you're dead. So we don't use that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back here. I'm not going to save this. I'm going to reload it. And that is one of the reasons why I don't use the rotary and the precision slides. The other is the jitter that you saw in the other screen. All right, so I use the mouse axis. Some people, instead of a mouse here, they use this as a hat. You can do that similarly. Just define the bands correspondingly. And the other thing I use here is the left mouse click, which comes by default, and the mouse scroll up and down with the back wheel on the thrust lever. Which I found useful for zoom of the external camera, so I leave them in. The wheel button I disabled, or rather I overwrote. How is this set up? It's unprogrammed. You know, sometimes I come to this software, it's going to say fallback, and sometimes it's going to say something else. It's quirky. Just select either unprogrammed or fallback. That's probably going to be sufficient. Now, once you came here and you went in and you saved your profile, you think you're all good. No, you're not, because you have to come here on your bottom right side of the screen, click on this arrow, find your X52 icon, right click on it, and if I had made some changes, I was going to clear it, and right click on it and select which profile I wanted. Anyway, the last piece is obviously DCS. And over here you come under controls and you have your X52. You just come here and if you press a button, you're going to see what's assigned to that. Like, for example, this is what I have assigned to my pinky switch because I don't use it as a shift key. If you want to use one of your buttons as a shift key, you have to come over here and the modifiers. And in my case, I use the clutch button as a modifier. So I came here and I said add and X52 and I press the clutch. And it's not showing up here, but let's say I want to use the pinky switch. I press it here and say OK, and now that's going to work as a modifier, right? When I'm going to cancel all of this. Now, when something works as a modifier, you can come over here and let's say you're going to use the first detent of your trigger. You can press my clutch and you can see that modifier was identified over here, and then I press the first detent, and that's how I would say OK, and that's how I would assign to that. And when you want to delete this, guys, you have to right click and say clear combo. Some of those axes, they have a beginning and an end, and some of those axes, they go on forever. Like your mouse, X, Y, and scroll, they go on forever. The same thing with the rotating wheel on your thrust. And let me bring up this guy here. These two wheels at the bottom of your thrust also rotate forever. Now, the other 3 axes that you have, this rotating switch over here, this rotating switch over here, and this slider, they have a beginning and an end. So the type of things that you're going to be using, the unlimited ones versus the limited ones is different. Anyway, so in order to figure out what you can use accesses for, just make sure over here you are under all, and you select access assign, and these are the different options that you would be able to make a access use for your access control. Let's just do this one as an example very quickly. Under zoom, the zoom view only works for the cabin. Double click on this sucker, where is your X52, and you slide your control up and down a couple times. That is going to assign the slider to this function. Let's clear this. Oh, and the last thing is that the search functionality here doesn't always work. I'm not sure exactly why, but for example, if I type zoom here, I don't have zoom access for some reason. I'm gonna go under access commands and scroll to the bottom, and that's zoom view. I think I covered everything I wanted to cover, and I think that's it. All right, guys, good luck.